Hey guys, Dr. Dion here, and PETA's head kind of right there. Been thinking about some ideas of things to bring to the channel. I tend to stay what I consider like a little bit vanilla about my real positions and beliefs, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what people should expect out of a coach, what people should expect from a philosopher. And I want to clear up some misinterpretations about what people think ethics means and what it means to be a philosopher who does ethics and a surfer who does ethics, and like what my behavior should be in reflection to my philosophy. I say this because I've had not too many, but just enough um, of not ideal social interactions with people in the water over the years. I know that there are people who are just against education in the surfing space in general. That looks kind of like don't make money surfing. Friends should be able to teach you enough about surfing. You don't need to pay anybody. Surfing is not a sport like the other sports. You don't need coaches. That's a position that people hold, and naturally, if that's your position, you're not gonna be super stoked on somebody like me who does exactly those things that you think ought not to be in surfing. Hopefully, I could try to persuade you that maybe your view is not the case, or you have some room for movement in there, but and that would be cool if I could. Probably you're not the right person to persuade about that, though, and those people, I guess, are just gonna in general have a problem with what I do, no matter how nice I'm perceived to be, or how good of an actor I am perceived to be, or how perfectly I comport myself in the lineup. So just general objection to what I do for a living. Okay, noted. Then more, this is, and maybe I might not even be able to persuade anybody of the things that I'm about to say, but I have noticed like a common criticism when people know who I am from my YouTube videos, my Instagram presence, and just word of mouth. Also, I surf a ton, so if you even surf a little around the places where I surf, especially here in New York, like you're gonna run into me at one point in time because I surf a lot, so that makes the probability high. And I've had this kind of complaint, basically, that if I make an error, like a paddling error, or if I have like a misinterpretation of, for example, sometimes I'll paddle deeper to get in the queue, not to back paddle people. Like I'll even tell people I'm just going out there to wait my turn, plan on everybody cycling through. I let the people cycle through, then I take my turn, and then I'm still criticized for back paddling after what I did was just go out the back, let people take their turn, and then take my turn when it's my turn, which in my perception I'm doing correctly, but in other people's I'm back paddling or doing something incorrectly. Also, I do make mistakes, so I will like be upfront right now with some of my like number one, I would say, mistakes of etiquette or comportment. One of them is I just get super excited and I get over frothy. And I think a lot of people can identify with this, which is that if the waves are pumping, like I want to get a lot of waves, and it's hard for me to talk myself into my own patient mindset, into my own waiting mindset. And if I see little like weaknesses or areas where a surfer is also in over froth or out of positioning, or maybe they're a weaker surfer than I am, I'm an animal. Sometimes I take advantage of that, and I can be told to like slow down. I try to tell myself to slow down, but yeah, my excitement gets the better of me for sure. Another thing I can't help is that I'm usually pretty focused when I'm in the water, and I have like male resting bitch face. My dad's name is Mad Dog. He has that same face, and when I'm focused, people think I'm like mad or mean, or I'm just focused. Also, Like, I'm not an incredibly social person when it comes to in-person interactions. So people feel there's a mismatch between like how I interact in the water and how I am on social media. I'm like all about everybody getting along, et cetera, et cetera. And then they have like an abrupt social interaction with me in the water. Well, the thing is, when I'm producing content for social media, I'm in a controlled environment. There are no people here. It's me and the dog and pictures of me and my dad surfing and talking to an audience who may or may be nice in the comments or not, right? So to interact with me like on the internet versus in person is a little bit different. So just a note, like in person, I have social anxiety and like a force field around me that people can perceive as, yeah, I'm a little antisocial. Like, actually, yeah, I that's for work for me and my therapist, etc. But I do have like a ton of social awkwardness. I have problem getting eye contact with people. And then, yeah, I also am a hyper judger, a hyper critiquer. Like, my brain processes things a gazillion times a minute. If I could get it to slow down and stop, that would be cool for me sometimes, but often it just won't. Done a lot of work over the years to not say what's exactly in my mind all of the time. But yeah, that is a thing that is going on in my brain. So there is definitely a disconnect between Dion on the computer, Dion in social media, and like when you meet me in person, if we're not going to the beach together, or you're not my client, or I don't already know you, and you're not a surfer for whom like I already respect your surfing like a pro, right? Like if I love good surfing and I love sharing waves with good surfers. When I struggle to get into that rhythm of sharing waves with people, there can be friction, just like I'm sure that is the case for a lot of us. This is all to say too that yes, I am a philosopher, but being a philosopher or a coach, in which case I am both of those things, it doesn't make you a perfect person. I'm not putting myself on these platforms giving surf advice, giving diet and fitness advice to say that I'm perfect and I have everything figured out and everything is smooth in my life. I have tons of anxieties, tons of business stress. I have figured out some systems that work pretty well. I am quite effective at coaching people to have good style from the start of their practice. And I have identified what I believe to be a good foundation set of fundamental teachings so that you don't develop bad habits in your surfing. I back that for sure. I also have done a lot of philosophical work on hardcore philosophy, on what it means to say something is true. How do we verify that one person has the truth versus somebody else has the truth? What grounds our truth claims, for example? Like, what is there an ultimate test of reality that all of us are operating on that we can all resort back to when we say XYZ is wrong, XYZ is right, this needs to be the case, this needs to stop being the case? For philosophers, those are really difficult questions to answer. Other people might say, no, it's really clear, like, you burned me and like you're a dick. For me as a philosopher, there are situations where that is not totally clear. I will explain one particular situation in which this was extremely unclear. Surfing on Halloween, waves were pumping. Sorry, outside noise. And I caught a good one, and I was paddling back out, and this wide one came, and I didn't see anybody going for it at all. Like, I was like, oh shoot, just on the paddle back out, there's a super wide wave, and this happens at this beach, which currently doesn't have a good sandbar, but had a good sandbar at that point. Looks like nobody's on it, and the peak's coming straight to me, so I flip and go. I'm up in the lip, and somebody's coming down. He's not in the tube, doesn't really have like a good option on this wave, but I'm in a fucking shitty situation. I'm already in the lip. I have two options. One, bail my board. Two, Just make the drop and kick out and apologize. Really, that's when you're up in the lip, you're up in the lip. And I got myself there through excitement. There was nothing I could do. The way I saw it, the better option was just to fucking eat shit in my mouth, basically swallow my pride, stick the drop, burn the guy, and apologize. Way better than ditching my board in his face. And that would have been terrible. That would have been that would have been so awful. And I tried, so right away I knew the wave didn't turn out that good. Right away I knew I'd done something wrong, and I went to, apologize. But before I could do that, the guy starts going fucking nuts. Like, all this stuff about anyway, I didn't know him from Adam, really. And he had all this beef with me. He had all these beliefs and all of this stuff. And I was asking him, like, I can't apologize. And he was like, no. I'm like, I don't know what I can do if I can't apologize. And I tried to explain to him, I'm like, dude, like, you're lucky it was me who can land that rather than somebody who's going to ditch their board. I mean, I know that doesn't sound good when you just got burned, but I remember being up in the lip and just like thinking it would have been far worse if I would have hurt the guy by bailing my board. I just thought that was a worse thing to do. But this guy got all riled up, and totally fair. I totally understand the emotions there. And also my emotions of like being excited. I really did just want to apologize. But here's a person who had developed all of these beliefs about me that I wasn't even privy to. I didn't know who he was at all. Maybe that was part of the problem. That does seem to be a part of the problem with these people who have these like ongoing like psychodramas with me, and then I don't know who they are, and that's maybe because I'm not involved in a social circle with them, and like maybe like they're mad that they know who I am and I don't know who I don't know. Anyway, he had this whole thing built up about how terrible I am as a person. And this burning was like the straw that broke the camel's back, like unbeknownst to me. So then he has a brother who apparently has a bigger beef with me that I didn't even know about. And they're snapping off. The brother wants to fight me on the beach. And I'm just like, what? This is so weird. And then the whole lineup turns it. Then they start getting these people in the lineup to like turn against me. And I have to say, these people, like, they don't surf that well, right? Like, they're mediocre surfers, whatever. That shouldn't really matter, but I'm just like, then the brother's like gonna try to burn me on every wave. Maybe I'll have some of the footage of that session because MG was filming. And it's so weird because, they didn't stop me from getting waves. They just created all of this drama, and like, I really didn't want to burn the guy, right? Okay, to be continued. I gotta get on a call. Continuing the story, took off my sweater. It's a little later in the day. We do what we can. I had to get on a call, make lunch, field somebody picking up a surfboard. You know how it is. I rewatched the first thing I filmed, and I have to finish telling the story. I was at the part where everybody was saying they don't need me in the water, etc., etc. I don't even know who these people are. I know people that I've been surfing this beach with for the past 15 years. They were not giving me a hard time. I actually really don't burn people. So that's made up, except for in these kinds of situations where total accident, and I would have loved to have the chance to apologize to this person. So the brother tries to burn me on all these waves, but he's just ruining his own session. Like, there's too many waves coming through. The waves were actually pumping. And I had a super good session, but the thing was that there were these psychodramas that I wasn't privy to, right? There was the whole entire dialogue going on that I had no clue about, right? Nobody came up to me and was like, hey, you hurt my feelings one day, or like, I really want to get to know you, and like, I wish you were my friend, or come join my social thing. Like, I'm socially weird. I don't go to social things. If I see a big thing happening where there are going to be a lot of people there, I'm going to be as far away from that thing as humanly possible. It's just, I've always been that way. Would I like to be a little more comfortable in larger social situations? Maybe. But like being a philosopher, that doesn't make me pro-social. Philosophers are antisocial. We like to go into rooms and offices and read books all day. So there's that. Then there's the thing of like, you're supposed to be teaching people etiquette, you're supposed to be a good coach, etc., etc. I am a good coach, and I do teach people etiquette. I teach people to like wait on the shoulder and look in until, watch the lineup cycle through, then take your turn. If you miss the wave, you lost your turn. If you're not the right ability level to be doing that yet, wait until you are. Go catch whitewaters away from other people. I teach good etiquette. I teach people how to control their surfboards so they're not ditching surfboards in people's faces. And also, people make mistakes, right? People make mistakes. The other thing is no teacher, no coach I don't have control of what happens. I try to teach good etiquette, but I'm not these people's dad. I don't tell them, like, I don't have control of their life. And even if I was their dad, even in the case of them having a dad, they don't have to listen to what their dad tells them to do. They might do the fucking exact opposite of what their dad tells them to do, right? Like, that's human nature. We want to castrate our fathers. That's just how it is. Key little note there, castration anxiety. We can talk about that at a later time. I've done a lot of work on that in Freudian theory, actually, and I think a lot about that in surfing. Another really major point. So I said I try to teach my students etiquette. I don't have control of them outside of a session. They do listen to what I say because they're paying to listen to my advice inside of a session, but people make mistakes. And honestly, I know that. I don't get upset when people burn me, to tell you the truth. I get frustrated when somebody's like right in that sweet spot landing and you want to do a turn and you're given this like perfect 6 section and you're just like, oh. And I've had it be like one of my best friends, you know, and you like can't even get mad. You're like, and I've been that person too, where you're in the way and you're just like, fuck, like you finished your wave and your wave finishing lined up with the perfect section for the person behind to like land right where you are, and they don't want, it's not worth it, right? That top turn, that floater, that air is not worth landing on somebody's head. And it's not. There are more waves. There are always going to be more waves. But I want to get back to this idea of, because I do philosophy, I ought to be like some perfect ethical person. No. Philosophers, like in general, are like terrible people. Again, for that antisocial thing, like we're grumpy and like want our space to like do our thinking, and like we can think of how to ideally make systems and come up with theories so that like we could ground truth and stuff like that. But for the most part, like that doesn't seem to also equate into us like being able to like necessarily have the smoothest, best social interactions with other humans on the ground in the world. Does that make our philosophy invalid? No, that's called an ad hominem argument. It's just like the doctor who is out of shape, out of breath, on a statin, knows exactly what to do to get perfect nutrition and can't take the advice himself. I mean, he knows the science, but him knowing the science, giving the advice, and taking it himself are two completely different things. He knows he'd be a better person if he could take it, but he's not doing it, right? What is holding him back from that? Probably a lot of things. I don't believe in free will. I believe that like our choices are determined. I do believe that we have choices and that we can constantly grow and change the more information that we can gather about how our brains work and what we're inclined to do. And honestly, I have done a ton of work on myself. I'm like trying to be a positive person, but I have crappy parts of my personality just like everybody else. I grew up in a super localized, territorial, macho place. I am suspicious of people's ability levels, and like my knee-jerk reaction if you're ripping is to be nice to you, and if you're less than ripping to like not be as nice to you. And like I'm working on it. It's not like a thing that I like pride myself on. It's just something that's how it's socialized, right? And I see these parts of surfing culture socialization in me that like aren't my favorite, but they're what I have to work with. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what I have to work with. I'm not necessarily going to go around like apologizing to everybody all of the time. In some cases, like this situation I described, like I want to apologize. Back to the thing I said in the start of the video, though, if your issue with me is that you don't think anybody should coach or give surf education, then like that's like a more essential threat to my way of making a living and just viewing the world. And like I also, again, you're welcome to that view. Probably not going to be on this channel unless you're hate watching, which people do. That it's a thing that people do. But yeah, not a perfect person. And I will say, like, I'm also totally aware, I've said this a gazillion times, of my own ability levels as a surfer. Like, I'm good at surfing. I have a nice style. I'm not a world tour level surfer. I feel like I figured out the fundamentals and the basics. And a lot of those have to do with like doing less on the wave, actually moving your body less, waiting for the wave to tell you what it will allow you to do, the places it will allow you to go, and then accessing those parts of your board with your weight distribution so that you can go to those places. But I'm not one of these coaches that's going to be picking apart like whether you're like really, you know, weighting enough on the front foot for that fin release that you're really looking for. Like I love watching that kind of surfing and I'm still learning from that kind of surfing. But for me, fundamentally, like I'm really looking for surfing to be pleasing on the eye more than anything, more than getting points from judges or being extra radical or proving to everybody that like you're sending it the hardest. That's not my thing. And then when it comes to like etiquette, getting along in the lineup, etc., the thing is I'm open to people making mistakes and hoping that they have the grace with me to allow me to make mistakes as well. I'm just so absolutely not perfect. But I keep trying to grow and get better and do all the things that I do better, like making this YouTube channel and making for content and making more content and being here, showing you my face, showing you kind of like the inner thoughts that I go through and some of the hardships I've gone through in surfing and the lessons that I've learned. And that's what this channel is about. It's about growth. It's about achieving potential. It's about optimization in a certain way, but it's about flourishing and just continuing to figure it out as we go along. And so, yeah, if for whatever reason you're one of those people who thinks I'm a dick or whatever, here's my advice to you. Just say, hey, like, you hurt my feelings one day. I totally respond really well to that. Like when you own your emotions or however like some misread of me made you feel, that takes the sting out of it for me. Like I do get on the defensive when people start being like, you did this, you did that, you're this, and like all these things that people have been saying behind your back are true. Like that shit, like that just turns me into a scared little animal, and then I act like the little prick that you think that I am. And like I'm capable of acting better, but like when I get put on the defensive, like the little Grom from Moss Landing just comes out and is like I'm just defending myself. I'm just being an animal, you know? So even though I'm a philosopher and a coach, like underneath all that, I'm also a little scared chihuahua, you know? And that's just how it is. But I have learned to be like, hey, that thing you did like ruffled my feathers, or like, I don't know, were you giving me shade because I felt like you know, I statements. Just like own your emotions, and that gives people space to own their emotions, right? Then you realize you had this like huge misread, and like I said before, like sometimes people think that I don't like them just because I have like a scowl. And the scowl is just how I was born. Like, so like, seriously, my dad's name's Mad Dog. Again, that's his name, Mad Dog. And he doesn't fight anybody. Dad's never been in a fight. He doesn't have to fight. He also happens to be big, where I'm small. And yeah. And if you also, anybody like calls me a bully, think about the fact that I'm 145 pounds. Like, I am a small person, and small people get defensive because they've been picked on and bullied their whole life. And I have. So just think about that a little bit, right? So a philosopher, again, is not a perfect person. It's a person who loves criticizing and analyzing and trying to understand how things work in the world. It doesn't mean we have it figured out, right? Always continuing to learn and to grow and to have these conversations. So I hope you get something from this. I don't know who needed to hear this. I am not really speaking to the haters necessarily, but I just wanted to say that I did notice this thing where people have developed attitudes about what philosophers and coaches or coach philosophers like ought to be like in the lineup. Number one, we're people, we make mistakes. Just like everybody is a person and makes mistakes. And yeah, for the rest of you, thank you for being here. Thank you for liking the content, subscribing to the channel. Remember that if you like these deeper philosophical thoughts, I have a weekly publication that goes out on Fridays, every Friday. And if you go to my website, it's called the Dr. Dion's Philosophy Zine. There should be links to it all over the place. If they're not apparent, you can criticize me on that in the comments. And I'll send you the link. Get over there. Lots of good stuff on those. Check out my blog, Instagram, or just keep following me here. Totally appreciate it. And I will catch you next time.